Dust on the Appian Way. The Appian Way awoke before dawn. The stones, worn smooth by thousands of feet and wheels, were cold, but already full of life. Slaves pulled carts loaded with amphorae of wine, olive oil, and grain. Shepherds drove their flocks. Soldiers returning from campaigns walked alongside beggars. Marcus Livius Secundus stood by the side of the road and counted. He carried nothing himself. Others did that for him. A gold ring glistened on his finger, the mark of a horseman, not a senator. Marcus was not of noble birth, but he knew the value of every amphora, every sack of grain. 200 amphorae from Campania. The price will rise, he said quietly to his slave manager Tyron. Rome was growing, and the bigger Rome became, the more it needed food, wine, clothing, and metal. For ordinary people, this meant hard work and dependence on the price of bread. For people like Marcus, it meant opportunity. He remembered his father, a small craftsman who died in a cramped insula, suffocating from smoke. His father worked with his hands. Marcus worked with his mind. Trade did not require noble birth. It required caution, connections, and the ability to wait. The Forum and its shadows. The Roman Forum was the heart of the empire and its stomach. Here, people talked about laws, but whispered about money. Marcus walked between the columns, listening. The merchants did not shout like commoners at the market. They spoke quietly. About a ship that was delayed, about a governor who could be bribed, about a new tax in the province. Spanish silver will become cheaper, said one. But Egyptian grain will not, replied Marcus. He had warehouses in Ostia, ship shares, and agreements with 3 captains. He did not go to sea. The sea was for slaves and sailors. But every wave worked for him. Meanwhile, ordinary people lived differently. The plebeians huddled in insula, multi-story buildings, where water was only available on the first floor, and a fire could destroy everything overnight. They bought bread every day. If the price rose, hunger came immediately. A merchant could wait. An ordinary person could not. The difference between them was not only in money, but in time. Time in Rome was more expensive than gold. The sea that feeds the ship. Fortuna Minerva left Alexandria in early spring. Its holds were full of grain. The captain prayed to the gods, but Marcus prayed to numbers. Egypt was Rome's breadbasket. Whoever controlled the grain controlled the city. Senators did not trade directly. It was considered unworthy. But they willingly invested money through people like Marcus. He took a risk. If the ship sinks, I will lose everything. If it sails, I'll be richer than 10 generations, he thought. The ordinary Roman did not know where bread came from. He saw only the queue and the scales. He did not care about storms, pirates, or bribes to customs officers. When the Fortuna Minerva arrived in Ostia, Marcus did not celebrate. He just sold the grain at the right moment, when the price peaked. This is how Rome's wealth was born, not in battles, but in warehouses, not in speeches, but in deals. A home without fear. Marcus's house stood on the Aventine Hill. It had a courtyard, a fountain, and shade. At night, it was quiet here. At the same time, children were crying in the city because the roof was leaking and bread had become more expensive. Commoners lived from day to day. They had no reserves, only their hands. Marcus had a different life. If the harvest was poor, he sold his reserves. If prices fell, he waited. If the government changed, he changed allies. His wealth was not ostentatious, like that of the senators. but it was flexible. He could move, hide his gold, change the direction of trade. Ordinary people had no choice. Merchants had options. And that is what made them strong. A bloodless legacy. When Marcus grew old, he no longer went to the forum every day. His business continued without him. He left his sons not titles or land, but ships, warehouses, other people's debts. He knew that Rome could fall, emperors could change, but trade was eternal. A commoner died, and everything disappeared with him. A merchant would die, but his deals would live on. Thus, in ancient Rome, it was not those who had swords or names that became rich, but those who understood. Where there is scarcity, there is power. Where there is risk, there is profit. Where there is patience, there is wealth.